Hello, Jennifer, Justin, Tori. That's who I can see so far. I can't see if there's anybody else yet. So I know Diane's on too as well. She's going to help with part of the PowerPoint presentation. So welcome, Diane, as well. That I saw John Haley on there too. Well, all right. Couple more minutes. Justin, did you ever figure out what was going on with that gentleman we met out in Breezeway out there?
No, well, I did actually find that the ticket was never hit submit by the officer. So we'll be dismissing that for untimely filing. But yeah, Mike and I were trying to have a conversation about how overcrowded the jail was over the weekend. And we were inundated with multiple people asking us where to go, where to find the courts. One guy was asking us about his ticket. So it is interesting. It goes to prove the point that we need court navigators if we're just randomly standing there.
Yeah.
And we look like we fit in. So it's like, hey, these guys must have an answer. So yeah.
Yes, what did he say? He come down a couple different times, didn't he say? And just to try to take care of it. And I was like, well, good documentation that you showed up, at least to make sure that they know, the courts know. And yeah. So it did turn out to be a city case after all, huh?
It was a city infraction that the officer didn't push the right button. So it never got sent to court.
Right, exactly. Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and get started, and other folks may join. Welcome to the March 13th Spokane Regional Law and Justice Council. We will start off with our open public forum. We generally dedicate up to 15 minutes for this with a 3-minute limit per person. So I have a script to read, which is greetings, everyone. Today's SRLJC meeting will begin with a public comment for 15 minutes. As a reminder, is a 3-minute limit per individual. Speakers should address the matters which are within the powers and duties of the SRLJC. Speakers should also identify themselves and address the chair. Council members will not engage in any dialogue with the speakers. And if you'd like to comment and have not done so already, send a chat message to the admin assistant, which is Medea, and she'll give you a speaker number and we'll take you in the order that you have. So we'll give it a few minutes to see if there's anyone that would like to speak from the public. Medea, do we have anyone that has identified as wanting to speak?
I don't have anyone.
Okay, neither by telephone or by chat. And we don't have any written input from an email, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I'll leave it open for 1 more minute and then I will close it from there. Okay, I'll check back with Medea. Any comments or anything come through the chat?
No one at this time.
Okay, then I'll formally close the public session and open up the meeting by seeking for approval for July 10th SRLJC meetings. Do I have a motion?
I have a motion to approve the January 10, 2024 meeting minutes.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second,
We have a motion and a second, so all in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
I'm abstaining because I wasn't present. So I abstained.
Hey, okay,
I too will abstain. I was not present.
okay, roger that. Okay, well, the ones that did say aye and the two that have abstained, the ayes do carry it, so I will adopt the minutes for this meeting. So we're going to start off today kind of on an update. We'll start off first by allowing our new legislative member, which is Mayor Cooper, to introduce herself and welcome her to the team. So go ahead. You have a couple introductory things you'd like to say, Mayor?
I would. I'm excited to be part of this council. Most of you probably know that I served in criminal justice as court administrator and court commissioner, 25-year career doing that, just retired this last October. I'm currently the mayor in Medical Lake, but with all of the issues facing our region, I just felt it was a great opportunity to take some of my experience and hopefully add to the conversation and support your good work. So thank you for appointing me to your group. I look forward to working together.
Well, we're sure blessed to have you, and we thank you for volunteering your time to be on a part of this council as well. Also, I saw Jennifer Morton. Jennifer, can you kind of pop on and give an introduction of yourself too, please? Maybe
Hi
she
there.
hasn't. Okay.
My name is Jennifer Morton. I'm on the Arrowhead Heights City Council, and I believe this is my third meeting. So I'm still pretty brand new to all this. And I've also been selected to chair the racial equity subcommittee. And my hope is to have a first meeting in April. Thank you.
Super. Okay, anybody, and then Judge, you haven't been on for a while. It's welcome back. I think you've had a couple of times off, which I'm talking to Gloria actually, and I realize there's more than one judge on here. So welcome. We haven't seen you for a while. It's good to have you back, and your smiley face on the council as well. So, all right. So we'll start off kind of with a little bit of update. Some of you are also associated with the core group. You know, Justin and Judge Fassbender and some others are, Aaron Stromberger, are on the core group, which is centralized to the efforts and initiatives that have spun out of the MacArthur Foundation. And so we meet as a group and talk about some of the initiatives that have been going on. And really, there's only been primarily two that are really in full swing right now, and that is the supported release program along with the rideshare program. And so we were approached by the foundation to ask if we would like to do a capstone grant. The proposal would have to include items that we have piloted in the past. It's not meant for new initiatives to spin off anything brand new. So it was kind of a review of the past, and reviewing the past, we tried to look through things that we think would be beneficial to ask for a capstone for, and then also kind of, you know, lessons learn some things. Some things went right, some things didn't go so great. Some things we had to do a pivot on and kind of readjust and move around. But I think all in all, between the core group and some tremendous help from JMI, which is associated with the MacArthur Foundation, I think we have a pretty solid application for our capstone grant. And I thought if you would mind, Diane Lindquist and I will just kind of give you a brief presentation that we gave to the board to give you guys an overview and to kind of bring you up to speed on some of the things that we're doing. And, you know, I'd like to give a shout out to Katie and Judge Fassbender and Aaron for being present for that presentation. It was sure a help and sure a good feeling to have that support around me when we're talking to the Board of County Commissioners. So it was much appreciated. So Medea, if you could bring up the PowerPoint, and then Diane, has she been promoted to a panelist?
Yes.
Okay, there you are. So can you start from the beginning of the slideshow, Medea? From the beginning up the left-hand corner. Go up till from the beginning up top. See in the corner right there above the slide, it says from beginning. There you go, thank you. And then, okay, so kind of an introductory slide to what I was just talking about, you know, what our efforts are and all the good input that we've had leading up to this. And if you don't know, MacArthur Foundation has been with us quite a while, and we've tried several initiatives. We've had 3 different leaderships, actually, maybe even 4 different leaderships over it. Most recently, before I started overseeing it, was Maggie Yates and her efforts that she'd done through the Justice Task Force, which is some good work. And I had an opportunity to meet with her last Friday just to catch her up over coffee of what's going on and just to talk through some of these things. So she was pretty excited to hear some of the things they're still pushing forward, and just, you know, offered some of her input too as well, which I think was vital. So we'll start off with the rideshare supported release program. So next slide, please. Go ahead, Diane, we'll start here.
Yeah. So
Diane,
as we
Diane, can you introduce yourself? Because I'm not sure everyone knows who you are. So go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Hi, everybody. I'm Diane Lindquist. I'm the Criminal Justice Data Analyst working with Mike. I provide and analyze the data that is being that we get from all the programs we have, and help Mike with any data initiatives and requirements that we have for the criminal justice system. So as you can see from the rideshare program performance, this has been running since December 2021 up to February 2024 for the Uber rides, and starting July 2022 to it will last till the end of this year for the bus passes. So we have spent around 273,000 for this whole initiative already since its inception, 268,000 of which comes from Uber, and then 5,000 of that is for the bus passes. Out of the whole duration of the program, we have provided 13,067 rides, 1,027 bus passes. Pioneer Human Services, which we are partnered with for them to handle our hotline, has received 8,451 calls. And that means we have impacted 995 individuals with the Uber program and 419 individuals for the bus passes. As you can see, the ride usage is mostly because of court-ordered class or treatment at 67%, followed by court hearings at 17%. Probation, which is really almost similar to court-ordered class or treatment at 11%, and then just others at 5%. So you can see that the usage of the program really is geared currently towards addressing FTC or failure to comply warrants rather than failure to appear warrants, because only 17% of the rides are being used for court hearings. But we will try to do an analysis on that FDA warrants anyway. So if you can go to the next slide. So as you can see, we try to get the FDA performance of district court. In this case, we do not have access to municipal court yet. And we do have access to superior court data, but we are still trying to finesse that logic regarding hearing outcomes for it. So we are not able to include that in this presentation. So for district court FDA performance of the rideshare program, we looked at data from January 2019 up to January 2024 and looked at how many defendants there were during that time, and then the rideshare participants during that time. And we realized we only really serviced around 1.21% of that clientele for the rideshare program. So only 257 individuals participated in the rideshare program compared to the 21,000 defendants for district court during that time. But that is expected because we are really targeting the high needs individuals for the rideshare program, not just everybody. Overall FTA rate of district court defendants improved by 7.2% before and after rideshare, compared with 37.1% improvement for those that small participant that participated in the rideshare program. Note that some other FTA efforts may have contributed to reduction to FTA rates in both groups, because there are some other programs that were running concurrently with the rideshare program during the time. Any questions?
Yep.
Yeah.
Next slide, please.
Next slide, please.
So what I was asked to do is kind of give an analysis of what it actually costs to process a warrant by the various touches by law enforcement, detention services, pretrial services, everyone that made a touch on it, and kind of give an anecdotal idea about how long it takes for it. It's not an absolute science. It basically boils down to staff cost, the duration of time, and then an approximation of what that cost would be based on their hourly salary. So I'm not going to go through each one of these, but you can kind of look down to it. And one thing that I'll highlight is the one in olive green, and that's if a person were to actually spend the night in jail, and that's a cost that would be associated. And that basically is everyone that touches them, from the booking officer all the way up to the nurses, people on the floor and their time invested in it, people transporting back and forth to court. So you can look down at the bottom and you can see that the average cost of a one-way ride was $18 one way. And then, of course, the majority of them that Diane has analyzed has been both ways, there and back, for like treatment programs or urinalysis or some of those other ones, helping tremendously on the FTC side. And then, we're still trying to quantify the FTA side, but we're not the only agency that struggled with this. Some other agencies have struggled with that as well. So you look down there, and that's kind of gives you kind of a cost difference of handling, a warrant versus, if this were the absolute reason why they showed up to court, what the cost would be for them to get them to court for a court hearing. So, questions on this before I move along? Okay, next slide, please.
Yeah, so the next slide is regarding supported release program. So as you can see, this has been running since January 2023 last year, and is contracted to run to December 2024 for a total fund of $358,000, which 42% of those has currently been used. The supported release program goes through different phases. So the first one is when it gets referred to the program. And then if Pioneer Human Services are able to interview these individuals, they go and become processed. And if they actually engage with the Pioneer Human Services case managers after that initial contact, then they become enrolled, and then they get into the program. Currently, 84 individuals were referred, but only 24 were processed. Out of those 24, 8 got enrolled, but currently 0 has completed. And that is because we face a lot of challenges with supported release program, from referral all the way to engagement.
So you can see that, this program is about a year older or so, and it's had some challenges up and down. It's a referral base. Under the way that it was designed, there was no presence on the campus, which we felt probably contributed to it, after looking at some of the successes that the city has had with having their services co-located or where they were located at. It's voluntary, and it's really based on human behavior. So there's really, whether or not the person, once they got out of jail, felt like taken up on the services that were being offered to them. So in reviewing the program and kind of looking it over, we understand that there needs to be a pivot, a different change to it if we're going to make it successful. And through conversations with JMI and through MacArthur, I think they too realize that there has to be kind of a shift to make this more focused on folks that we can identify that would need those services on site and in a better location. So next slide, please. So that brings us to the capstone proposal. But before I go on, would any of the panel like to speak to any of the two programs that we just talked about? And I can't see you right now. I can only see the grant proposal, so you're going to have to speak up if you want to add something to it. Okay, hearing crickets, I'll move along. Next slide, please. So this gives you some of the background for the capstone grant of 2020-24. MacArthur Foundation providing a 2-year capstone. It positions the site to use the momentum of work that's already been awarded and piloted. And it gives them an opportunity for the sites to formalize it and to bring it about and really develop some sustainability strategies on the other end of it. And so that's primarily how we focus the wording and the layout of this grant. Submission deadline March 21st, 2024. I have submitted it to the first round of approvals. I submitted it on Friday. We're waiting to hear back from them. And that would be our site coordination through NIDA. And then once she has looked it over and has made her recommendations, then collectively we would input all of that into the capstone and submit it to MacArthur on the 21st. And the capstone value itself is about $540,000 over a 2-year period. Next slide. So we looked at our past portfolios and kind of did a realignment. We realized the existing programs are facing challenges, primarily rideshare, lack of funding. It's an expensive program, but it has success. We realized that if there's a better strategy of monitoring that, which I'll explain later, a more discerning eye on how we're doling out those rides and what could be substituted with bus passes or public transit, and looking for some of those opportunities. And then supported release is basically on a lack of participation. It's after the individual has been released from custody, and it's quite honestly human behavior. And we'd like to make an adjustment to maybe enhance participation to it. So we'd like to realign these pilots, and I say to the front end, but really to the pretrial justice office, and then add rideshare back, court date reminder and warrant avoidance strategy. And that really boils down to having that individualized conversation with these folks as they're going out on a monitored release, looking at their barriers and challenges for transportation, having a more discerning eye on it, understanding what their obligations are to do and how frequently. And I think with a little more attention to some of those nuances, we might be able to govern the amount of rideshare usage, to a better strategy. And then on the supported release, it's about the services and providing those wraparound services that otherwise present challenges for these individuals to get back to court. Again, having an individualized strategy towards it, very similar to what the city does, and identify these needs right up front, and then trying to eliminate those and get the linkage up to where the individuals can get to those services. Next slide. So this is just kind of a graphic of it. You'll see that the first box is existing programs. That's going to be a part of the capstone. The middle part is the enhancement part of it, and that's where we're going to request an additional pretrial services officer that could help with monitored releases out of district court, because we feel like that's an area that we had before, we'd like to get back. And monitor release really is a program that works, and I can have Judge Fassbender speak to that later if she would like to, if you have questions about that. The second one is kind of around that strategy that we had for court date reminders, where we had Betty Grapo in place. And that's an individual that actually can make connection with them to try to make those court date reminders, understand if there's going to be a problem up front, work with the courts, and try to get them scheduled along with transportation, daycare, whatever the issue is, to try to get them to court on on their scheduled date or something thereabouts that would work with the courts overall. And then also on the warrant avoidance is they miss a court date, understand those folks that have missed the court dates, and then get a hold of them and try to get them in for a warrant recall, any of the other, strategies that are offered by the court, and help it not become a warrant. Hey, you missed court. We don't want this to become a warrant. What can we do to help you get to court to, to satisfy your court appointments? So, and the third strategy of it is this peer support navigator, kind of what Justin and I were just kind of talking about, the court navigator, someone that's present on the campus to work with these individuals, be up with the courts, talking through some of the processes. And this is already being offered by Pioneer Health Services as part of the supported release program, but not taken advantage of. So we want to give that kind of a larger role on the pretrial side of it and see that we can incorporate that early on to help alleviate some of the stresses and strain that come along with, making these court dates and kind of bolster that up a little bit. And the third element is we haven't done a really good job of tracking data. And so what we're going to do is develop a dashboard surrounded around these initiatives using best practices that have been offered by the National Institute of Corrections or some of the other entities to help monitor specific data to measure success and outcomes. And so Diane, Aaron Lynn, myself, and the Board of County Commissioners, you as stakeholders, are going to be having meetings come along to try to measure what's important to you. And then we're going to try to capture those and develop strategies around them. It will likely be a work in progress, but we're going to do our best to try to capture what you feel is important. So that's kind of the gist of the proposal on one slide. So next slide. This kind of speaks to that warrant avoidance person I'm talking about. It would serve as a live contact to the individuals, serve as a liaison between the courts and have that up close personal conversation, similar to a caseworker, to help these individuals get to court and to not have whatever they have or a missed court turn into a warrant status. So kind of what I talked about earlier, just kind of a slide that goes a little bit more in depth on it. Next slide. So the National Guide to Improving Court Appearances, published in 2023, so it's recent data, identified that live call have got a good foundation in a court appearance strategies. And so King County right here in our own state has been using it, and it's been used for over 2 decades of it. But if you look at it, that's quite a reduction, rate, non-appearance from was 12% to a reduction of 37% on the calls or reminders themselves. And so if you look down a little farther, there's that long gap period that we have all been concerned about between the time that they're arrested and their actual arraignment. These seem to help in that gap to have more folks show up for court. And then the study found that people of color with an average of non-appearance rate decreased from 22% to 12%. And so if you look at all the reductions as it goes along, those are pretty significant. We're also going to continue the text reminders, which is done through UpTrust. And there's some data below that you can see on the failure to appear rates where it's helped out. And so some of that has been valuable. So we want to use the two of those in concert in the strategy as well. Next slide. The next is this transportation, rideshare. And you can see that if you look at the top one, Hennepin County, you'll notice that the second highlighted, the first highlighted bullet, they did not collect data showing the impact on failure to appear rates. Because this is what Diane and us have been searching for and trying to come up with a good methodology for doing that. That's going to become a part of that dashboard that we're really going to strive to do as well. So you can look at the appearance rates and the reductions. I'll give you a minute to kind of look through it. The second one, out of North Carolina, they kind of targeted more the people that need medical related transportation or those that lived in rural areas with no public transport. Okay. Any questions? Next slide, please. So wraparound services, adding supported release is found to be beneficial too for the court appearance strategy. So we want to add our existing supported release to this pilot as well and making it available to the monitored release folks to help them get the necessary services that they can have to try to, overcome some of those barriers for them to getting to court. And it's been shown to be beneficial in, a couple of different states, a couple of different areas, as well as some supporting stuff that you could read if you wanted to look at this guide that was published. There's some more specific data. It would have taken 20 slides to put it all on this slide program, but there's a lot of supporting data that when you use these individual strategies together, you get the most bang for your buck. And so we're not trying to make a too far of a reach, but I think it's a reach that we've already got in progress. We've already got the rideshare in progress. We've already got, the wraparound services for supported release. We've already got the text messaging going right now. And then really where we're missing it is that live body, that person to coordinate it all. So that's the strategy kind of behind it. Next slide. Here's the dashboard that we're talking about. And as it turns out, Pretrial Services has a new publication that comes out, and it's called Measuring What Matters. And it gives you a series of outcome measurements and performance measurements. And these are the dashboard elements that we're going to be working along with your input from the stakeholders to develop this robust dashboard that we're going to be having to report out on how we're doing, how these things are working, how successful is it, and then have kind of a quarterly report out to you folks too, but also to the MacArthur Foundation and probably more often to the core group. Next slide. Additionally, the other thing that we want to do is if you look at these different dashboards, our present dashboard is the one to the left, and it reports out on jail population, jail admissions, and so forth. What we want to have is a more outward-facing dashboard that informs the public on what's important to them. We already know that our dashboard for the jail is the most frequent site for the county. And gets by far the most hits of any of the rest of them. We want to take advantage of that and kind of give a report card, similar to what the Blueprint of Reform said, on having kind of a report card on how things are going. And so I've asked Diane and Aaron to help me work on this part of it too. And that's put these initiatives on a dashboard and the things that are important, the public may want to see, like reductions in jail population and those type of things, and then call them out on this dashboard. Next, please. Diane, give me a break from talking for a minute.
Yeah, so as we understand it, we have 540,000 amount for the capstone that we can apply for. And this is really just breaking down how much we are going to be asking for each of those initiatives that we have. So for example, the pretrial officers, that 2 additional full-time employee that we are asking for, we're thinking of asking 320,000 for it, and that would cover their salaries, benefits, and setup. We do have peer navigator in there, but we are not asking anything for that under capstone because we still have 207,000 of it under the MacArthur Phase 4 grant. So that will just get rolled over to the capstone duration. For rideshare, the Uber version of it, we are asking 200,000 of it to tide us over as we look into the performance of it a bit more to see if any of our local government would want to help us to set aside funds for it. But understand that 200,000 is actually going to be short of the 1-year requirement that we are looking at with the rideshare program. Because looking at the Phase 4 run, Phase 3 run of the grant rideshare program, which is that last phase we had from July 2023 to February 2024, we are actually averaging around 18,000 monthly, and that would require 216,000 for a full year run. And without changing anything. So if we are only allocating 200,000 of it for the rideshare program, there will be a need to look into the mechanics and coverages of it to see if we can extend those dollars a bit. For the bus passes, we are asking 4,000, so that would cover additional 2 years. And then for the information dashboard, that 16,000 is really just for the licenses that we need to use for the information dashboard. So you can see in the next slide after this is really just breaking down those dollar amounts to specific items under each, if you guys are interested. And so this breakdown has already been applied to the MacArthur, at least to that first level of review for the MacArthur capstone that was submitted last Friday.
Okay. Next slide. So here's the next steps. We talked to the Board of County Commissioners. We presented just what we presented to you today. And they have allowed us to move forward with submitting the capstone, which we were pretty happy with. The completed application will have the input from the foundation, the first look, which is the first approval process, and then add those into the capstone as I suggested earlier. And then depending on the foundation's decision, we'll start implementing and moving forward on the scope. That's what our plans are. Okay. All right. Questions, comments? Judge Fassbender, did you want to? You knew I was going to call you. If no one says anything, I've got your faces right here, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get this one. I'm going to get this one. Go ahead, Judge.
Well, and certainly as for, the presentation to the county commissioners was great. They had some really good questions. Certainly with the follow-up of that, bringing it back to my bench on the ride share and additional bodies over at pretrial services. Thank you, Aaron. Will certainly benefit. And they do agree with regard to the ride share that we do need to have better eyes on the program as to whether they're on a bus line, so they'll get a bus pass, versus if they're not on a bus line, facilitating the ride share program. So they do agree we need to kind of, tailor the requirements of the program to have it be more sustainable based on the funds that are asked for. So,
Yeah.
but otherwise though, I mean, they all seemed really receptive to the proposal.
And then Justin, you as well. I talked to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm really happy with this proposal. I think it really shows how grant funds can be really useful, because grant funds allow you to experiment with different models to try to help move the system forward. We used the model that we got from New York that's been highly successful in New York, but unfortunately, the way it's designed did not work well with Spokane. And that's just, one of the realities of when you're bringing something off the shelf. But what I think we've learned, not only from the process of going through this experiment, but also what the city has been able to do with their pretrial service unit, that if you make some tweaks to make it fit the demographics and sort of the resources that our systems have locally, we could have a pretty good impact. And that's why I think this proposal embraces those realities. And I agree with what Judge Fassbender just said. When we're looking at rideshare, that has been overwhelmingly successful, but it's also overwhelmingly expensive. And so if we're able to use the numbers and the dollars as best as we can, hopefully it'll go further. But hopefully this proposal is met with the same enthusiasm when the foundation looks at it. I know they've been very frustrated with Spokane County over the last couple of years with the supported release. So hopefully that frustration won't get the best of us, and they'll give us this last dollar amount. Because I think everybody on this call needs to realize we've been doing this for 10 years. 8 years now, and it'll be 10 at the end. Started in 2015 and will end in 25. That's the end of the entire safety and justice So for us to have gone through the entire process of 10 years, it's pretty impressive. Not all the things that we've done have lasted long-term, but they have really changed a lot of our processes across the system to make this a better functioning criminal justice sort of operation.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's true. I think it's just that ability for us to shift gears and pivot when we need to. You know, and there's some things, the citation, there's things along the way that have worked well, you know, have made some definite changes. If nothing else, you know, even the model that the city built off of it through these lessons learned, and now an example to us, you know, the county side is good. That's all good inner workings and good, you know, collaboration. So, Aaron, did you want to say anything while you're there?
Just that, yeah, I think these are good ideas, and I think we can bring a lot of the strategies that we already employ on our end on the felony side, and we can kind of shore that gap that's missing on the district court side, and just kind of make everything equal across the board. So that's my hope.
Mayor?
Yes, thank you. Let me lower my hand here. So working with the municipal courts, you've been doing this for 10 years, and then it was really only during probably past, you know, the pandemic that the municipal courts in the rural areas were then able to kind of, learn about this and engage with that. And so is that the intent that this would also serve the outlying areas, you know, for the Airway Heights Municipal Court, Cheney Municipal Court, which also serves Medical Lake Municipal Court. So just wanted to make sure that that was included. It really did help. It made a big difference. We ran into a little trouble in some of those outlying areas, like you talked about, where the bus doesn't go. The Uber riders, you know, didn't go. And so solving some of those is still a problem in the more rural areas, but just wanted to make sure that was covered.
Yeah, no, thank you for that too. And I think a more discerning eye for us to really evaluate who's using these and do get it down to an individual level will be a big benefit, you know, and not be afraid to say, listen, you're across the street from a major bus route. You could take the bus, you know what I'm saying? And then reserving those Uber rides to the people that we know will need them, you know, that in those rural areas, medical areas, and some of those things. The other thing is that, you know, I'm convinced more than ever, and I don't know if the city's experienced this or not, Justin, but I don't really believe the returning citizens know what's available to them out there, all the services and what could be linked up to that. And I think that, you know, even call upon myself, I think we need to do a better job of offering those services and telling them just what's available to them out there and opening those doors. I think that's one area that we've kind of missed the mark on it. The other one is, you know, the communication to the city of Spokane or Spokane County of, you know, telling them what we're working on and let them be part of the solution. I think that's another area that JMI has brought to my attention, that I think community engagement is going to have to play a larger role in this. And so those are kind of the things that I've also, along with what you suggested, Mayor, that I think it's not identified in this PowerPoint, but it's things I think we know that we need to do as well and be included in it. So, yeah.
But Mike, to the mayor's question, I believe that the money and the services that this would provide are focused on district court. I don't believe it was contemplated, whether it's the city of Spokane, Medical Lake, Cheney. I think this was focused on district court, the expenditure. Is that correct?
Yeah, go ahead, Judge.
I would say right now, as far as the rideshare program, it was across Superior District Municipal. I know at one point, City of Spokane did contribute some funds to get an influx into the program itself. Continuing on, it's still being offered as far as Superior District Municipal. But one thing I did want to point out, Mayor, is that the bulk of the rideshare is to get individuals to urinalysis testing, treatment, What we've all learned from COVID is that a lot of the court appearances and or treatment and such can be done, or meetings with their probation officers can be done by way of Zoom or Teams or such. So I don't know that there had ever been identified a need. I know Judge Leland is very well familiar with the program here for district court. He's also the judge for Cheney Municipal Court. I don't know as far as if he's ever vetted it as a need for Cheney Municipal Court, for example. I know Judge Garrell has been part of this program or part of this. When I was back with Airway Heights, not part of it either. Because we just relied on testing, the testing that was already needed for a district, municipal, or superior court case. We just kind of tagged along with those. So certainly I think, you know, as far as vetting those questions with those two judges, I don't, but I know specifically that it was still going to tailor on or track on with superior district and municipal court at this point.
So not everybody has a case, you know, in every court, and I think you would improve your program by making it countywide. I think it would make more sense. We have this shared demographic, you know, the bus system goes countywide, and recognizing that court is court, you know, and you can't UA over the phone, you know, over Zoom, but and treatment, you know, of course Zoom is a great option, but there's the time that they have to be there in front of the judge or in person for, you know, certain kinds of things. And so anyway, I just wanted to, I think that was something that was missed, that I felt was missed in the past, is acknowledging that Spokane County as a whole should be served. And then, like, I was served on the Broadlink board. And so a lot of those rural areas don't even have the ability to get Zoom, you know, and they don't have a phone that can get the data to even be able to participate. And it's the folks in those rural areas that are going to fall through the cracks and be left out. And then those are the ones that get the warrants. And, you know, everything is more expensive the farther away from the urban hub that you get. And so how do we solve that? And, you know, we have some therapeutic court funding, and both of the Airway Heights and Cheney Municipal Court are both using those therapeutic court fundings to help with transportation. But I'll tell you, it was a huge help when we were able to piggyback onto your program at one point. Anyway, so just want to hopefully make sure that that gets included and that we start really looking at all of our programs as a regional wide. If you're called the region, we should be servicing the region and not just that, you know, downtown core. So
Yeah, it's gonna boil down to the sustainability part of it. And Maggie and I kind of discussed this too when I met with Maggie. It's gonna come down to, you know, when the MacArthur Foundation is funding it, it's someone else's money. But when it comes down to sustaining the program long term, then it's gonna be all of us evaluating our budget and seeing where we can make those contributions to it. And so, right, long-term target. Okay, anything else? Well, this has been a great input, and I appreciate it. We can cover real quickly, and we don't have about 10 minutes, what the focus groups are doing, if there's any updates to that. And I guess I could start off. Jennifer, you said that you're gonna hold hopefully your first meeting in April. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then any more you want to talk about that, or just that you're building some strategy around it, or?
I am. Yeah, I am. So.
Okay. Okay. And then, yeah, I'll be looking forward to see how that group comes together and what kind of input. That's going to be a tremendous part of our community engagement portion of it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what is developed out of that, and then getting back to the larger group with some information on that part of it. So, Aaron, anything out of your group?
Yeah, we met about a month ago. I think I'll keep it short, but what it boiled down to, we're kind of doing two strategies right now. One, we're kind of on a little education tour of the county. We did a presentation for the Public Defender's Office explaining all the diversion programs that are available in greater depth. I've got a judges meeting with the Superior Court bench in a few weeks to kind of loop them in on all of our programs. And I think Katie can vouch for this, but on the prosecutor's office, I think they're having a CLE seminar or something coming up on diversion programs. So it's kind of this education process right now. There's been a lot of turnover with attorneys, even judges. I mean, the bench has changed a lot, as Judge Fassbender knows. So it's really just re-educating and getting these programs in front of people again. But I mean, on the other side of the coin is, you know, like Katie has said, and Colin, they're down so many positions. So to really invest in these programs and grow them, they just need the staff to do it. And so until that happens, we're kind of at a standstill, at least from that end. But that's what we had talked about.
Okay. Yeah, and really, like I said, the June, July period is really what I'm shooting for, is to get some of these filling, you know, meetings for the board and down to the city council for the, you know, presentations. So as long as we're plugging forward on them and, you know, we're ready to go. I know Tim Fitzgerald sent us a email, and I apologize because I was so busy I didn't read over it, but his group is also working on some of those. And Justin, I think you and I on the community engagement side are still kind of working those bugs out with JMI, unless you have any, did you guys have a chance to meet?
Well, I was able to talk with JMI, but yeah, I don't have anything else to
Yeah,
for.
I think it has to be a larger strategy, Justin, like we're thinking, you know, and I think that, you know, it's kind of doesn't have well-defined parameters yet, in my opinion. Maybe we need to focus a little bit more on the community engagement and the racial equity stuff and kind of wrap our minds around it. You know what I mean? So look forward to working with you and JMI on that and see how we're gonna kind of pull that. So, all right, Sheriff John Mills says that he has to step off, and we appreciate the sheriff showing up for these. That's much appreciated. John, thank you. So,
Yeah, gotta go talk to commissioners about revisiting Measure 1. So
okay,
take care.
well, have fun with that one. Okay, well, does anybody else have anything for the good of the cause? Okay, and then our next scheduled meeting is when, Medea?
Scheduled one is May 8th.
May 8th? Okay. And then some of us
Mike?
will be got, some of us are traveling. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, some of us will be traveling for that to the MacArthur Foundation. Matter of fact, we've already got our tickets bought, so you better be going, guys. So we look forward to going down to that conference and meeting with those folks down there. And then hopefully from that, we'll have some good stuff to bring back. So we may have to look at our scheduling here and then get it out to you guys for a reschedule on some of that stuff. So anything else? Okay, well, thank you for your time. I much appreciated as always. And thank you for all that you do. And we'll talk to you guys soon.